through storms, unshaken, unbowed. From trials and verdicts, still standing proud. A titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it loud. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key, make the big switch. Power to the people, time to teach the rich. Legal battles can't hold him, he's moving on. With plans so bold, from dusk till dawn. He's rewriting the rules, a new dawn's day. From the hands of the few to the people's way. Say goodbye to all chains, embrace the new. A financial revolution, fair and true. For the workers, the dreamers, side by side. In Trump's new era, let freedom rise. Changing the wind.
Welcome, everyone, to the Crazy Cryptonaut channel. I am Zester, and thank you guys so much for joining me on this fine Trump day. I hope everyone has been having a good first, at least up to this point. I guess shouldn't go ahead and declare it a good week until it ends one. But I hope everyone is having a fairly good start to the first full week of 2026. It's definitely not been a boring year so far, as essentially the world order seems to be in flux at the moment. And so definitely I've been paying a lot of attention to Iran and Venezuela recently, which I imagine is probably the same as a lot of y'all out there. But on the crypto side, we've had some very good signs. Market is starting to turn back around. We have some amazing news for XRP. And of course, we've got a very interesting one today to talk about in Rumble Wallet. Rumble Wallet that'll be coming out. And that one's going to be so interesting because, well, I know so many of us use Rumble. And so going to talk about that one after we say some good mornings. Happy Trump Day, Mile High Trish. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Kukla. And Merry Christmas, Kukla. Very Merry Christmas. I know I believe that y'all are celebrating today. So happy, Merry Christmas. I hope you and the fam have a great one planned. Oh, good morning, everybody. Rosie 8494. Good morning, everyone. Zester, if I create an XRP account with Coinbase and have my Ledger hardware wallet, will my silver purchase be safe just to store it in the Ledger hard wallet? And so, Rosie, I'm assuming you're talking about when we've got more options in order to have tokenized gold and silver. Like right now, we have Pax Gold. And that is exactly how that would work, Rosie. Your Pax Gold would be stored on your Ledger hardware wallet. You would make that purchase of Pax Gold on an exchange. You could, keep it there. But as we know, you're going to want to get it onto your self-custodian wallet as soon as it makes sense in your situation, which, judging by the amount of activity, the amount of people trying to hack into accounts, trying to fish out everything at the moment, it seems like the kind of time where really everyone should be making a very, very fast transaction out of an exchange over to your hardware wallet. But yes, Rosie, you're going to have on your hardware wallet, like I know on mine, because I've got Ethereum and Bitcoin and XRP. I've got a Bitcoin wallet. I've got an Ethereum wallet. I've got an XRP wallet. They're all controlled by the same Ledger hardware device. And so essentially that's what you're going to have, Rosie. You're going to have the same hardware device, if you want it to be the one that has a wallet that's maybe an Ethereum wallet. Like maybe the tokenized silver is on Ethereum, or maybe it's on XRP Ledger, whichever it's on, that's where it's going to be stored. The same wallet will also be the one that could have your XRP stored or your Ethereum. And so, yes, Rosie, in the long run, you're going to be storing these things on your own hardware wallet. So your tokenized silver, your tokenized gold It's going to be on your wallet if you so choose. There will also, of course, be custodial services where you can trust someone else to be in charge of keeping it. But yeah, Rosie, and it is. And I'm 2026, absolutely, Rosie, you're going to start seeing the ability to hold, and you really already do in the form of tokenized gold. You already can. But you're going to see a huge growth in this. You're going to start seeing opportunities, essentially. You're going to start seeing interest offered. You're going to see far more of a push. Yes. Thank you, Kukla, for putting this one in. Please do, guys, remember that the content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes, not intended to provide financial advice. Please consult with a financial professional before making investment decisions. Always an important one. Melissa Morris, I have an important question. Zester, how can I buy Ripple using IQD? As of right now, it is one IQD to 30.67 dollar. Wise account doesn't allow purchase of crypto. At this point in time, Melissa, your IQD is going to have to come back to a US dollar in order to be able to get onto a centralized exchange. That is to the best of my knowledge at this point in time. I do not know of any exchange that accepts the Iraqi dinar. Not at this point. Now, we do know, and so, Melissa, I don't think this is going to be the case for long, because we know that Coinbase has the IQD price being tracked. And so watch this one real quick, guys. Let's go ahead and get the other screen up here a little ahead of time. Y'all are going to get dropped partway into my news articles of the day. But watch this. If we go and we look up Coinbase IQD, USDC to Iraqi dinar pops up on Coinbase.com. And so, Melissa, when it comes down to it, you're going to be able to. Someday, you're going to be able to. But as of right now, I don't know whether this is actually functioning or not. At this point, though, it so claims that that it has the option. I have yet to try and pull that one off, Melissa, but I believe that this is just here. It's set up. It's ready for when this price is different and when the demand for people to start buying cryptocurrencies with Iraqi dinar skyrockets. And so at this point, Melissa, I don't see a way you would need to essentially sell your IQD for US, take the US, put it into an exchange. The only other way to do this would be to do this with someone you know who's interested in something of that nature. Well, good morning, Anna. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Chris Cape. Good morning, Crazy Chester. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this fine Trump day. I am very curious, though, on this one, Melissa Morris. I do believe at some point you're going to see that option pop up. I absolutely do, because there are currencies that Coinbase is not tracking. And then there are very, 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 very unique cryptocurrencies. Currencies around the world that Coinbase is tracking. And so as of right now, they're showing one USDC, that is the US dollar stablecoin that is out of the United States. They're showing 1 to 1310 IQD. But we'll see how that changes. I have a very good feeling that will not stay at that same level forever. All right, though, let's start off with the normal. Check out where the market is at, because things are, well, they could be going better, but they also could be going one heck of a lot worse. And we've got something very important here to point out. We've got something very, very important to point out. We have broken from Bitcoin. XRP in the past 7 days is up 18.4%, as opposed to Bitcoin at 3.2%. Ethereum sitting at 5.6% up. Solana, 8.1. But ultimately, of the big boys, XRP is clearly winning at this point in time. And well, it's winning for very, very good reasons, because we've started to get a little bit more data out from the end of the year, and of course from our first 7 days of 2026. And well, what we have found is that XRP is actually outperforming Bitcoin and Ethereum in essentially every metric right now. And so XRP is at essentially all-time lows since back in the past bull run in terms of how much XRP is on exchanges. This is an important metric because it's a clear indication of investor mentality. If your XRP is on a centralized exchange, why do we go to a centralized exchange? We go to trade. If you're holding XRP and you're sending it to exchanges, it probably means you plan on selling it. And so if you're removing your XRP from an exchange, it means, hey, this person's not planning on selling it anytime soon. They're getting it and storing it over in their Fort Knox on their hardware wallet. They're going to hold. And so this metric is very regularly seen. It is actually very solid, typically in the past. And so right now, XRP is at all-time lows since last bull run of XRP on actual centralized exchanges. Liquidity in the decentralized exchanges. This is where people are putting XRP in order to, say, earn a return, provide liquidity. They're at all-time highs. And I mean all-time highs, not all-time highs since some kind of previous one. It's all-time highs. And ETFs are currently, XRP is outpacing Bitcoin and Ethereum for the first week of 2026, which is very surprising considering how much good news is on the horizon for Ethereum. And so let's jump into some of these. XRP price bull sees momentum as spot ETF inflows blast past the $1 billion mark. XRP is now outpacing Bitcoin and Ethereum as U.S. spot ETFs top $1 billion in assets. XRP Ledger, decentralized exchange liquidity surges. Exchange balances sink. That's what I was talking about in terms of the amount of XRP held on exchanges. And futures open interests hits multi-month highs. And so another very interesting one here is that we have found out that XRP, since it launched on back in November, the first spot ETFs launched, XRP has not had a single day of outflows, not one. They have had net inflows every single day since the ETF launched. What does that mean? People are putting money in, they're not taking money out. And that is not the case for the rest of the ETFs. Bitcoin and Ethereum saw billions of dollars yanked out of their ETF offerings during that same time frame. The only crypto that did not was XRP. And to a far lesser degree, Solana could argue that they did pretty well during that time, at least in comparison to Bitcoin and Ethereum, but it is not a drop in the bucket compared to what XRP has done. And so the digital asset, of course, we know that one. We saw we're at $2.21 now. We were actually doing a heck of a lot better just yesterday, where I know I saw on some exchanges XRP over $2.40. CoinGecko is claiming $2.39 is where we peaked out on that one just yesterday. Now XRP appears to be back up to climbing above $2.20. And so we've seen that. And the reason that this is so important, we talked about on Monday, essentially we need demand to outpace supply. And that is exactly where XRP is right now. That's why the price is going up. There is more demand than there is active supply being injected into the market. We've got more buyers than we have sellers. And we're just starting off the year. At this point, as long as this trend continues, XRP is definitely going to be exceeding that 1.0 buyer-taker ratio, that taker-seller ratio. And as we continue to push that number above, you can start to see it occur in the numbers. XRP will start to go parabolic as that number continues to rise. And it looks very much like that is going to be the case. unless anything changes at this point, because XRP ETFs are continuing to have a great day today. Overall market continues to look fairly positive for XRP. But here's the one big one. I know everybody always gets irritated and says, hey, the whole market follows Bitcoin. This market is not following Bitcoin. 18.4% compared to 3.4%. That is not a following, that is leading. And so if anything, XRP may be the one that's actually leading the market at this point in time on that side. All right, there's a few other interesting ones in here. I am going to make certain while I am thinking about it to put this link over in the chat for anyone who wants to check it out. This one was a very, very good write-up. Stayed on track the entire time. And yeah, you're going to hear a lot of things that we had been already discussing, things that were coming for XRP. One very interesting thing here, though, that I did not honestly expect is that the XRP ledger, that is the name of the XRP blockchain. It's the XRPL. And so, you know, it's the Bitcoin blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain. Well, Ripple has a name. It's the Ripple ledger. I don't appreciate them using the term ledger because it's just confused everybody out there. Because now you've got the word ledger in so many places in the crypto space. You've got the company ledger that sells hardware wallets. Technically, a blockchain is described and defined as a decentralized ledger. And so that just gets people more confused. And then you've got every other company that decided that they were going to call it the, you know, the this protocol, the this ecosystem. And so just so everybody knows, when you see XRPL, they are referring to the fundamental framework of the blockchain, of the XRP blockchain. But decentralized exchange liquidity on XRP's blockchain, which has always been extremely low, has surged to multi-year highs, according to data from CryptoQuant. The liquidity injection suggests market makers and large-scale liquidity providers are positioning for sustained price movement or increased volatility, the data provider reported. This is very odd, and this is definitely, I would not have guessed that that we were going to start seeing so much liquidity flowing into the DEXs on the XRP ledger. They have extremely low volume. They're not used by many people, but this is a fairly clear indication that a lot of big money folks, a lot of people, liquidity providers, they think that decentralized exchanges on the XRP ledger are going to become very popular sometime soon, or they wouldn't be doing this, because when you move liquidity over for things like this, you're essentially locking yourself in for a fairly extended amount of time. And that means you're not planning on having to sell. And that's what makes it so interesting when you see lots of funds flow into some of these decentralized liquidity protocols, especially XRP, because it's never happened before. But primarily because whenever it does happen, it means some folks know something or believe something. In this case, because of how centralized a lot of the major holders of XRP are, I'm leaning towards the fact that someone knows something, not that these folks are thinking something. And so that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Decentralized exchange volume increasing on the XRP ledger would be an extremely, extremely good sign. Essentially, right now, the world of decentralized exchanges is very much controlled by Ethereum-based blockchains, by EVM blockchains, with really the only other one being Solana. Solana has a fairly decent amount of volume on decentralized exchanges, but pretty much it is Ethereum and the Binance Smart Chain. The Binance Smart Chain is just the Ethereum blockchain. And so on them, decentralized exchanges have always been booming, essentially from the beginning. But on XRP, that has never been the case. So this one, very, very interesting. All right, let's let somebody else throw a number out there. This article, this one was just interesting. I don't know how much of it I necessarily agree with, how much I would argue with, but was XRP's price engineered to hit $12,000? Analyst alleges long-term plan behind SEC lawsuits. So I wanted to actually read through this one real quick. and more so in its entirety than I typically do when it comes to articles. I don't like to do that. I like to summarize, give a few opinions. But on this one, I really want everybody out there that's listening to more so be thinking about what this sounds like to you, because I've heard this one before. And so XRP's price has frustrated many investors over the past months, barely moving, while other cryptos surged. But according to financial and macro analyst Jim Willie, that lack of movement is not accidental. Speaking about the changing global financial system, Willie argued that XRP's role was decided long ago, and that powerful institutions are still preparing the ground before the public sees any major price action. This was decided 5 years ago, Mr. Willie here claims. Willie claims that major financial players began coordinating several years back, well before most retail investors paid attention to XRP. From his view, central banks, large clearinghouses, and market infrastructure giants reached an understanding about how digital assets would fit into future money transfers. He said in the interview, I believe it happened 5 years ago. Big institutions got together a long time ago and said, we want to limit public ownership, so we'll push some frivolous SEC lawsuits. Let's agree on an initial price of $5,000 and eventually maybe 12, but we need this thing to work. According to Willie, XRP should not be viewed like a stock or short-term trade. Instead, he describes it as a building block for moving massive amounts of money across the global financial system, argues that real action is not happening in public exchanges like Coinbase or Binance. And so this is what he argues is the reason for this, because XRP has always had much lower volume than the big boys. And so $5 billion in 24-hour volume, it pales in comparison to $23.8 billion in 24-hour volume on Ethereum. And volume is important. Volume is an indication of the health factor of a market typically. Now, we don't know how much of this is wash trading. All kinds of other things could be coming in. But this is essentially what Willie here is arguing is the reason that we've always seen XRP lag behind when it comes to 24-hour volume. He argues that the volume has been occurring off of exchanges, and so it's not counting. Instead, activity is taking place behind closed doors as institutions prepare systems capable of handling trillions of dollars in daily transfers. This isn't about profit margins or quarterly earnings. This is about moving huge volumes of funds. He claims that the world's largest financial institutions are key players in this: BlackRock, JP Morgan, Bank of New York Mellon, and NASDAQ. He says these firms are focused on tokenization, derivative settlement, and large-scale transfers, area where even small efficiency gains could save billions. In that context, speed and liquidity matter far more than short-term price swings. Now, he then goes on for the everyday XRP holder. Why are the prices not going up? Willie says, well, it's easy. That the institutions are not done loading up and finalizing infrastructure. In his view, once the system is ready and a major trigger appears, the shift could happen quickly rather than gradually. He described the change as an all-at-once event, accelerated by a financial crisis or a sudden rollout of tokenized markets. For now, XRP remains a slow mover. But if Willie is right, the real story may be unfolding far away from retail traders inside the systems that move global money every day. So what did y'all think of that article? I'm posting that one over in the chat for those that want access to it. The odd thing that I found here is that, well, I've heard this story before. I've heard this story from corners of the internet. I've heard this from a lot of the folks on XRP pricing, that this has already been set, this had already been established. And they lay out essentially that those are the reasons that some of my questions about how that's possible that's how they're solved. Is that they're solved because, well, this has all already been decided. This is all this huge deal. And these guys have already essentially set where prices are going to be. I found this article just pop up in my mainstream search. This was not a random corner of the internet. This was not some kind of, opinion piece that you would typically find where they're not really trying to back anything up. This one was interesting. I was curious to see what folks in the community thought. Have you heard this? Does this sound exactly like what you've heard? Because, well, I've heard this story before, and I didn't hear it from Willie. And so that is what made me very, very curious about this one. I did not hear this from Jim Willie in the slightest. I heard this from a variety of different folks. But now we're seeing it being discussed in a somewhat more mainstream fashion. Makes me curious about which parts of this are true. Where's the nugget? Where's the nugget? Or is this the entire layout? I don't know. You decide. I still have major questions. $5,000 per XRP. That would require a many trillions of dollar market cap. It's insane to imagine the amount of money that would have to be in the market cap of XRP in order for XRP to have a value of that, or the amount of XRP in existence that would need to be burned. Remember, in the end, there will be 99,985,734,415 XRP as of right now. We only have about 60 billion in circulation. And so the way for these types of prices to occur is either for the market cap of XRP to essentially be the market cap of the entire global economy, or this number goes down. This number going down to me is the most logical way that these types of prices could occur, but this number needs to go down a lot. And so, what did y'all think on that one? I'm very curious to see whether that little article there is one that you had seen before in a different place. AHD, what is your opinion on T-Fuel? T-Fuel in relation to Theta, the Theta blockchain. There, AHD. I believe that was the one that you, got to be T-Fuel. Theta was a very interesting project years ago when it first came out. I held some. I will let you know, AHD, at this point, I have entirely abandoned Theta. They screwed over a ton of their holders during the Theta migration, where they migrated over to a new smart contract, a new blockchain. When it comes down to it, AHD, I have sworn off Theta. I have not been keeping up with anything new, though, that has come out. As of the past couple of years, Theta had never provided any answers. We had a lot of people in the community who lost a fair amount of capital during the botched Theta migration. And so AHD, my opinion is not good. My opinion is definitely not good when it comes to Theta. But I'm very, very, very open if anything has changed on that front. If they have started putting out some products, putting out some services, getting things done, well, I would be jumping right back in. But I had Theta back in 2020, and so Theta at this point is now down 98.1% as of this exact moment, since its all-time high of $15.72 back on April 16th of 2021. All right, Rosie, what hardware wallet do you use? I use Ledger hardware wallets. Now, there are other great hardware wallet companies out there. I use Ledger, though, because it is the largest company, and it's the one that I had used for work and working in the cryptocurrency space. It's what I use. And so, ultimately, when it comes down to that, Rosie, you then have another decision essentially to make. And that's whether you get a hardware wallet that can work with your phone, or you get a hardware wallet that can only work with a computer. I personally do all of my crypto from the computer, so I use the Ledger Nano S Plus. It's cheaper. It's got a tiny screen. It can be a bit of a pain for a lot of folks to use. If you want to use your phone, easily use your phone. With it, you're going to need to get at least Ledger Nano X or above, so that it has Bluetooth capabilities. But yes, Rosie, that would definitely be my recommendation. We've got some old videos going through setting it up, and Ledger walks your hand through it. But very important things here, Rosie. One of the most important ones. when you buy a hardware wallet, you buy it from the manufacturer. You don't go buy a hardware wallet at Walmart. You don't buy a hardware wallet on eBay. Doesn't matter how cheap it is. You buy it directly from the manufacturer because you don't want anyone to have tampered with it. And so I have a link for Ledger on my link tree in the description. It'll give you some free Bitcoin back with your purchase. It also gives me some Bitcoin for your purchase. If you don't use the link, you just pay the same price and you don't get anything free back. So I definitely recommend using my link or someone else's link when you go to actually get a Ledger. But there are other hardware companies out there. There's Trezor. The Trezor's the second biggest for a lot of XRP holders. I've heard some folks like Tangum. Tangum, I've also heard from some folks it didn't work that well for them. That one seems to be very popular, though, with folks using it. But I personally suggest the Ledger hardware wallet. If you need a bigger screen, it's going to be more expensive. You're going to want an X or a Flex or a Stack. They have much bigger screens. They have batteries. They connect to Wi-Fi. They connect to Bluetooth. I mean, they're far more advanced. The Nano S Plus that I use is very much the simplified, broken down version. But I absolutely love that part about it because, well, it is that simple. All right. Jumping to our next article. What do we got? JP Morgan targets Canton Network for next phase of JP Morgan coin. All right. This one was, I wanted to point this one out because this, in many ways, is kind of a representation or a good way of showing to people that there's going to be essentially an arms race amongst banks, blockchains, and etc. And that arm race is going to come down to which blockchains are being used for what. And so JP Morgan's Connexus unit is taking JPM coin beyond its existing rails, planning a native launch of the US dollar deposit token on the Canton Network. And so digital asset creator of Canton Network and Connexus by JP Morgan plan to bring USD JPM coin natively to the Canton Network, extending the bank's deposit token from its existing infrastructure into a public institutional grade blockchain. Now, the bank has already begun deploying JP Morgan coin on Coinbase's Base network for institutional clients as part of a pilot. But this is interesting because we're seeing a separation, essentially. This is JP Morgan's coin. We all know JP Morgan, definitely far too large to fail type level of business, as 2007 and 2008 would reveal. That they're essentially building around private blockchains at this point in time, not actually for public use, but here they are beginning to enter in to a public use blockchain, but not on a blockchain that anyone would have expected, the Canton Network. And I'll go ahead and admit myself, I've heard about the Canton Network a few times in reference, but I really don't know much about it at all. In the slightest, in all honesty. And look here. Here's Canton. Canton currently at 13 cents a pop, down 8.9% over the past 7 days. It only has a bull market capitalization of a little under 5 billion. That puts it at the 35th largest blockchain. But they got the JP Morgan partnership. JP Morgan plans to migrate its JPM coin. You know, here it even is in the recently happened to Canton 2 hours ago. That announcement couldn't make the price go up. This one's odd. This one's very, very odd. And I think, though, that you're going to see it. You're going to see folks trying to essentially control the markets. You're going to see them partnering with different blockchains. But Canton? Not quite certain how JP Morgan came to that decision or why that partnership would be with a fairly unknown blockchain in comparison to others. Yeah. Very, very odd. It even has its own Canton.network. Very, very interesting. Very interesting there. I'm going to be keeping an eye on what the JP Morgans of the world are up to in the beginning of this quarter, because my primary expectation is they're going to be highly focused on tokenization. All right, we got a little news from Ripple. Ripple plans on remaining a private company, says Ripple president on IPO plans. Reiteration of the payment company's plans not to pursue a public offering following a $500 million fundraise in November, leading to a $40 billion valuation for Ripple, the company. Ripple Labs' Monica Long ruled out an IPO for the company, saying it was a really healthy position without going public. Tuesday interview with Bloomberg, Long addressed rumors that Ripple was planning to go public after the company reached a $40 billion valuation in November. Ripple president said the company was focused on growth following the $500 million fundraise that was headed by Citadel Securities and Fortress Investment Group. And so Ripple doesn't plan on going public. At least that's what they're saying right now. And that means that direct investment in Ripple remains gate-kept essentially to accredited investors, people that are big dogs and can actually call somebody like Citadel up on the phone and the company would actually answer. Unfortunately, I don't fit into that category, and I don't know too many people that do fit into that category. And so looks like we're not going to get a chance to actually buy Ripple stock. At least that's what El Presidente of Ripple Labs is saying right now. All right. Well, I was not alone. Moody's outlook for 2026 has them stating they believe stablecoins to become a core market plumbing in 2026. Moody's says stablecoins and tokenized deposits are evolving into institutional digital cash with trillions in on-chain settlement volume and billions in infrastructure investment. And so I'm not alone in this one, but I was very curious to see what Moody is expecting on prices. And so stable coins are shifting to a crypto native tool, to a core piece of institutional market plumbing outside of just the blockchain. In this report published Monday by Moody's, the rating agency said stablecoins processed about 87% more settlement volume in 2025 than the year before, reaching $9 trillion in activity based on industry estimates of on-chain transactions rather than purely bank-to-bank flows. Now, Moody's said fiat-backed stablecoins and tokenized deposits are evolving into digital cash for liquidity management, collateral movements, and settlements across an increasingly tokenized financial system. And so Moody's would be of the same belief. I really don't have any doubt on this one, guys. You are going to see stable coins and tokenized deposits absolutely become a major, major part of day-to-day financial life in 2026. Now, how do we know this to be true? I actually have an article. This irritated me because this was actually announced on Monday, literally like 3 minutes before the stream started. So I did not have it pulled up, but this one came true very, very, very quickly in terms of expectations for 2026. You were going to see a lot more acceptance in terms of cryptocurrencies at major institutions. Well, I didn't think it was going to be that fast. Walmart embraces Bitcoin, opening crypto payments to 150 million users. Walmart now accepts Bitcoin at checkout via OnePay Cash, opening crypto payments to 150 million shoppers. It's just the beginning, guys. Walmart's accepting Bitcoin now. Amazon's going to start accepting these things. And then it will flow from Bitcoin to all the other cryptocurrencies. Walmart will start accepting stable coins. I imagine it could happen before the end of the first quarter of 2026 that you see Walmart accepting stablecoin transactions. if they have any success or just don't have any failures from accepting Bitcoin, you're going to get stable coins insanely soon being spendable at Walmart. Cryptocurrency is going to become a daily part of the financial system in this year. And it's already happening. But yes, who's going to go to Walmart and buy with Bitcoin on account of this one? Who is indeed. I'm not going to go spending any of my Bitcoin, but absolutely when they open up stablecoin payments, I will have that. I will go and do it. Absolutely. When they do start accepting stablecoins, because I think that stablecoin programs with different companies and such are going to end up being highly incentivized. They are going to pay us to pay them in that form. And we're going to be earning insane interest rates in very, very, very stable investments. And so I'll absolutely be looking into that one. Morgan Stanley adds an Ethereum trust to the planned crypto ETF lineup. Ethereum should be set for a crazy good year. Ethereum has got a lot heading in its direction at this point. The Clarity Act is an extremely, extremely important piece of legislation for how Ethereum works because of the smart contracts, because of the token ecosystem. Ethereum stands to gain massively from the clarity provided by the Clarity Act. And Ethereum is set to do its next evolution, its ZK update, updating the way that it processes and the way that it finalizes transactions on the blockchain, which is going to push Ethereum up to over 10,000 transactions per second at ridiculously low costs. It's a big year for Ethereum, a very, very big year. Doesn't mean it's not going to be a big year for other cryptos, but do not sleep on Ethereum. I have got a feeling that you will very much see Ethereum break $5,000 with the Clarity Act and even with just the rumored date of when the ZK update is going to occur. I would expect to see Ethereum over $5,000, and place that in context. The all-time high for Ethereum achieved August 24th of 2025 is only $4,946. So I absolutely expect for it to, and I believe that's why you're going to see a lot of big banks and institutions jumping in to the Ethereum ETF world even harder. All right, Malin, is stablecoin a separate crypto? Okay, I'm glad you asked that, Malin. And so what is this? A stable coin can be built on a blockchain. And so like USDC right here. USDC is built on the Ethereum blockchain. It is a separate token though, Mal. They're not together. They just work on that blockchain. But a stable coin is just, in this situation, a dollar stable coin is all they have done, Mal, is they have put $1 in a bank account, and then they have given you one token. Your one token is a representation of that dollar in the bank account. And so you get to send your crypto token all over the place. You get to spend it and do things with it without the dollar that's essentially backing up that token ever moving. It's just sitting in that bank account the entire time. And so stablecoin is not any one thing. Stablecoins is an entire category of cryptocurrencies. And so you can literally come over and it's an entire section, like stable coins. Stable coins is an entire category. It's a section of cryptocurrencies. There is Tether and USDC, USDS, Athena, DAI, all of these. PayPal has theirs. Tether Gold is pegged to gold ounces. That's a gold-backed stable coin. These operate on all kinds of blockchains, but essentially what it means, Mal, is that they are a representation of some kind of tangible real-world asset. $1, an ounce of gold, an ounce of silver, something like that. That's what makes them a stable coin, because they are pegged to whatever that price is. They're pegged to the value of the US dollar. They're pegged to the value of a gold ounce. Mile High Trish, after years of hodling, it's just so hard to imagine using my crypto transactionally at merchants. Absolutely, it is. It absolutely is. Trish, that's why for me it will be. It'll be stable coins, because what I'll be doing is I'll be taking money I was going to spend, on a debit card or on a credit card, and I'll just be putting it in the form of stable coin and spending it that way. But it will not be. I'm definitely not selling my crypto in order to make suggest trades with stable coins. Yeah, definitely not, Trish. I'm in the same boat. Mal, which one do you suggest to trade in first? Well, Mal, when you first get started with cryptocurrency and you're at that beginning, I really don't recommend that you do all that much in terms of dollar values or anything of that nature. Essentially, when you're first getting into it, what you need to go ahead and get set up is you need an exchange. First things first, you need an exchange. And so that could be Uphold or Coinbase or Kraken or Gemini or crypto.com. And what this is, Mal, is this is where you take US dollars, fiat, and you bring it onto the blockchain. You put it into a cryptocurrency. And so that's your first thing. That's your absolute first thing that you're looking to get set up. Before you're figuring out anything else, you're figuring out how you're even going to get it. And this same exchange is where it's going to go from crypto back to dollars. So the price skyrockets. You decide you want to buy an RV or whatever. You're going to want that centralized exchange because you're going to come back to it and you're going to trade back to the US dollar. That's the easiest way to go about it. It's the cheapest way to go about it at this point in time. And so that's your first step. You've got that exchange. Now, what I highly recommend, Mal, is that you essentially put a very, very small amount of money into crypto. $10, $5, whatever that number is for you. A number that you are planning on losing. Just go ahead and say you're going to lose it. Now that you've got that, Mal, now is when we start having that conversation about what you're going to do. Because really what you're going to do at first, Mal, is you want to learn. You want to get comfortable. And so the best way to go about that is to do exactly that. Get an exchange, get $10, set up a free wallet, send it there, swap it between 3 or 4 different cryptocurrencies. Stuff like that. Just use the technology. And once you've done that, Mal, then I believe you start towards that path of saying, okay, now I'm going to start looking at which cryptos that I want to hold. Now I'm going to start looking at, a hardware wallet. How do I become the self-custodian of my cryptocurrency? That would be kind of the natural evolution. And so, okay, all right, you've already got that, and you have most everything on a Ledger wallet. Oh, absolutely. Then you're definitely already on the right path. And so when we start to talk about that, I guess more so what you mean is which other cryptocurrencies maybe to be looking at. I would highly recommend, Mal, that you look at cryptocurrencies like companies. And so a few that you could go check out to kind of give you an example would be like a crypto like Chainlink. Chainlink is a utility token. It is a business and they have crazy partnerships. And so that would be one to check into. Chainlink is a token built on the Ethereum blockchain. That would be a great example of something to be looking at or at least just considering. Of course, that is not financial advice, but what it does is it sets you off on a path of looking at these cryptocurrencies like companies. And that's going to be something that is very important to start doing. Everyone needs to start looking at crypto, looking at these projects in the same way that you would judge a business. Is the business making money? I'm not going to invest in a mechanic shop that doesn't fix cars and never has and doesn't plan on it. I'm not going to invest in that, right? It'd be a bad investment. And so that is absolutely the same way to look at cryptocurrency, especially in 2026. You're still going to have crazy meme coins that do well. You're still going to have things that are entirely speculative. But you're going to start seeing a major focus on cryptocurrencies that are running a good business, that provide actual value. People are using their services. And so, Mal, a great example of things like that would be to look at something like Chainlink. And also, as you continue on that path of looking through cryptocurrencies, another thing to remember is that they do different things. And so there are very different use cases for, say, XRP versus Ethereum or Solana. They do different things. They're not really competing with each other in the way that many folks think they are. Now, Chainlink, as an example, they provide AP data integrations from on-chain to off-chain. That's what they do. And so that's a whole sector. It's a whole service that every business in the crypto space has to use. Then there are other cryptos that would be like, oh man, I'm trying to forget the name of it, but there's like proof of origin blockchains. And so let's see if it'll help me with a few examples of that. No, it will not. Oh man, proof of origin. What is the? I'm gonna find it real quick because it's gonna irritate me that I can't remember the name of the big one in the proof of origin chain. But what they do, the proof of origin blockchains, all they're really based around is providing a blockchain proof of where a product originated from. They're all about the global distribution system. They have an entirely different use case than essentially all the other cryptocurrencies. Aave right here is a crypto lending protocol. And so that's what they do. And so that is another thing I would highly recommend everyone start to look at more. There is a lot more variety in the cryptocurrency space in terms of what they do than what people think. People think they're all just competing with each other. And that's why people always come out and they say, oh yeah, all the cryptos are going to go away because they all do the same things. And you're only going to have like a few and it's going to be mine or it's going to be this one. That statement makes zero sense because they do not compete with each other. Most of them don't. Some of them do. Some of them are trying to essentially build the same thing. And for those, they're in an arms race to see which blockchain is going to win. But others don't. Others just, they don't operate in the same thing. It's gets the same idea type deal. We're not all investing in restaurants here. Some folks are investing in mechanic shops. Some folks are investing in affordable housing. Some folks are investing in public transportation. That is more of what's actually going on here. But folks tend to view it as if we're all buying restaurants. And that's a very oversimplified type way of trying to describe it. But it's been very true up to this point. And you'll see it all the time. Oh, well, Bitcoin's going to die because XRP is going to take over. That doesn't make any sense. Like, they don't do the same thing. How would that make any sense? It'd be like, yeah, I don't know. Ford is going to take over for Boeing and start making the planes. Like, what do you mean? Ford doesn't make planes? It doesn't make sense. Rosie8494. How do I purchase Pax Silver? Would I have the dollar for purchases debited or ACH withdrawn from my bank account? So, Pax Silver, it's that one isn't really out there yet. I know that there are currently some offerings on the silver side, but in all honesty, the only really large tokenized metal we've got right now is gold. And there are two different major gold options. There is Tether Gold. Tether Gold, once again, pegged to 1 gold ounce. Tether, of course, is also the stablecoin provider, the largest stablecoin provider on the planet for US dollar-based USDT. And it has a market cap of over $2 billion. Now, let's just use this as an example, because this will be the same way that it'll work for tokenized silver. It's going to be the same way that essentially we're about to break down. So say you want some. I want Tether Gold or I want Pax Gold. Let's go for Pax Gold because I don't like Tether as a company. And so Pax Gold. Let's go with Pax Gold real quick. All right. Currently pegged to gold ounce, $4,468. Been doing very well considering the precious metal markets. Market cap of 1.6 billion. Now, how do you get it? So, Rosie, what you're going to do is essentially you're going to go to an exchange that it is offered on. And that's where you're going to make that purchase. And so, in the case of Pax Gold, Binance, LBank, Rbit, 2Bit, MEXC, Coinbase Exchange, Uniswap, that's a decentralized exchange. And the list goes on and on and on of the different places where you can acquire it. Now, what you're going to do essentially after you've acquired it is then you could go and take that and move that over to your hardware wallet or move that over to wherever you wanted to. And what you own is a digital representation of gold. You do not need to buy an entire gold ounce because that is the beauty of fractionalization. It's the beauty of the blockchain and tokenization. I can buy $20 of Pax Gold, and I can take that $20 of Pax Gold, and I can move that over and put it onto my hardware. Sorry, guys, that sneeze just snuck right on up. I think it's going to come. Yeah, my apologies there, guys. I have not been able to stop sneezing. Not quite certain what hit, but I was trying to save everybody's earbuds there for a second. But so back to that one, maybe recapping a little bit, but you do not need to buy full versions of the silver or gold or anything of that nature. $20 worth, $10 worth, $50 worth. It's still backed by gold. You can fractionalize it. This is more and more of the beauty of where precious metals are going. I promise you, absolutely promise you, it is going to completely revolutionize the precious metals markets because you're going to be able to go in. You're going to be able to put your dollar into Pax Gold. You're going to be able to sit and hold it. It's going to follow the price of gold, because it's pegged to gold. And so you bought one Pax Gold token. That is a representation of one entire gold ounce. It's still going up with the price of gold, but you can spend that money. You could go buy things. You could literally go to, like we see, Walmart's accepting Bitcoin. Probably won't be too long before Walmart is accepting a crypto backed by gold. You'll be able to go to Walmart, buy things with your gold while maintaining and keeping yourself out of the fiat system. You'll be able to get your paycheck, immediately have your paycheck backed by gold, pay your bills, go shopping, have a little money left over, and that little money left over, it's going to track the price of gold. And so you really are, I know that to so many silver bugs and gold heads that they've always been so resistant, but they are going to have their minds blown when they see what this technology does to their precious metals. It's going to entirely change the prospect. Amy Jo Johnson, what do you know about Glint? I know a good bit about Glint. Glint is an awesome program, to my knowledge, from conversations with them. I believe they plan on evolving to a blockchain form at some point in time. And so, Glint, heard a lot about the Glint card. I think it's awesome. I think that pretty much what they're showing you with Glint is the early version of what the stable coins, what the gold-backed cryptocurrencies are going to look like. But the bonuses you're getting from Glint, the gold that you're earning, the things like that. Imagine that on steroids, on absolute steroids, because now you're the custodian of it. Now you're spending it. You can provide it for liquidity. You can earn interest off of it. You can earn it in different forms. And this is the biggest part about it, Amy Jo. is that it is a direct correlation. It's going to be Glint 2.0 essentially. And the way that it works currently is very reminiscent of Glint. It's just Glint without that centralized structure. And so how Pax Gold works is, so what you'll see right here with the circulating supplies, there are 378,071 of them. And so that means that in a bank in London, there are 378,071 ounces of gold. This is privately verified by third parties. This is constantly audited. This can be seen on the blockchain. The gold sits in that bank in London. You essentially go, hey, I'm going to buy a Pax Gold. You buy a token for them for the exact price of gold. They tokenize a new coin and they put that gold ounce in that vault. And you run around and do all the different things that you want to with your digital gold ounce. You break it down, you spend part of it, you just put it in your hardware wallet and forget about it. Whatever that may be, you're off and running. And now, if at any point you say, hey, I really don't want this digital version anymore, you turn in your digital version for a physical coin. You get your ounce. Because in this situation, it is your gold ounce. And so you very much can. You can. I get so excited about it because of where all the possibilities are going to go. But you get to have your cake and eat it too. You get your cake and you get to eat it. You get the benefit of having your financial future pegged to something that is stable, that does have tangible value in the form of precious metals, but you counter the problems. Right now, in the modern world, if you are keeping silver and gold in your home, is it doing anything for you? Is it earning interest? Can you spend it easily? Not really. And what happens when you do want to spend it? You're going to have to go to a coin shop or any of the different enterprises, and you're going to say, hey, the spot price of silver today is $75. I've got an ounce of silver here. I'd like you to give me $75, please, sir. What are they going to do? They're going to say, oh, no. We'll give you $68, or we'll give you $70, or we'll give you $72 for your ounce of silver. Because they say, well, we got to make a profit. And what are they going to do once they buy it from you? They're going to sell it at a premium, $2, $3 on top. And so you have had to go. You had to take your physical gold and silver someplace. You've had to bargain and negotiate with a coin shop guy in order to figure out how much you're going to get screwed off of the current spot price of the precious metals. And then you're going to walk away with that cash. You're going to need to take that cash. You're going to need to deposit it in the bank. The bank's going to ask you where it came from also. And now you have finally managed to get your money back out of silver. You did not get spot price. You spent a lot of time. You went through a lot of steps. And the entire time you had that silver or gold ounce, it was not doing anything for you. Yes, it was tracking the price of that precious metal, but it was not earning interest. It was not providing liquidity. It was also not benefiting the economy at all. Because whenever funds go over and they get stacked into physical metals, that money essentially gets removed from the economy, removed from circulation. And so now you're going to be providing loans. You're going to be providing economic growth. You're going to be getting rewarded for it. You're going to be able to spend it. When you want to sell it, you're going to get spot price. When you want to buy it, it's going to cost spot price. It honestly counters all the problems of precious metals. And I do believe there is a serious problem with precious metals as a form of exchange. Precious metals have, in the prior financial system, been a way of maintaining wealth, not of generating wealth. That is about to change. Precious metals in their digitized form are going to become creators of wealth, not just a management tool for not losing your wealth. Yeah, absolutely. My electrician had a Glint account for about 5 years. Love watching it grow, and it's easy to use since there's a credit card attached to it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Glint is an awesome program. The guys over there at Glint are awesome, and I very much look forward to Glint moving over into tokenized gold, silver, platinum, titanium, all kinds of things moving into the future. I very much hope so that they do, because if not, they're going to get outclassed by projects that are operating on blockchains. They're just going to get outclassed from a technology standpoint. This technology revolutionizes the idea of precious metals. It entirely changes the fundamentals. All right, though, guys. With that one, it's been an hour and 5 minutes. I have been rambling on for a while, definitely off script from my articles. But I hope everyone learned something. Thank you guys so much for joining. Love you all. I do believe we've got Whiskey and Wisdom tonight. At least I haven't been told that it's canceled. If not, and if we do not have it, I will be back on Friday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so I will see you guys then if I don't see you tonight at Whiskey and Wisdom. Everyone, stay safe. Have a great one. See you soon.